In 1872, the Mary Celeste was discovered adrift in the Atlantic, sails billowing in the wind and no soul aboard. This brigantine, found in near-perfect condition but eerily deserted, sparked a mystery that has baffled the world over for a century. You're listening to Casual History. What is up, everybody? This is Jacob, and my co-host Jeffrey over here as well is joining me, and this is Casual History. So welcome back to another episode, Jeffrey. Are you ready to talk? We're not quite ready to leave the seas yet, at least not for this podcast. Are you ready to hear about some ghost ships?
I'm ready. I heard your cold open. It was great. Got me intrigued. I'm ready to hit the high seas. I have a bit of understanding just from the TV show that I think that TV show is based on this story. So I'm excited to jump in.
Yes. So there is, yes, exactly. That TV show, I probably already know what you're thinking. The
1917, right?
Is it something like that?
Yeah.
It's pretty close.
It's a date.
Exactly. It's a date. So it's definitely some major differences as far as like the type of boat that it was, but the same type of like setup for mystery for that TV show is very similar to the story I'm about to share with you. So, So for those who don't know, we're just going to kind of dive right in. But this story is going to be all about the Mary Celeste. So the Mary Celeste is one of those really, really big mysteries. Like even to this day, people don't truly know what exactly happened. But to kind of give you a little preface of this ship is really, this ship was found drifting just in the middle of the ocean by another ship that had like left from the same port just like a week after it. It was supposed to already be at its destination, but when they came across it, it was just like floating aimlessly. And when they came on board, that's when things started to get a little irregular and a little eerie. And so I'm excited to kind of share the story.
Real life ghost ship.
Yes, exactly. Real life ghost ship. Not like the one in the Pirates of the Caribbean opening, but similar.
Close enough. Yeah, close.
If I was a sailor and I happened to across like an empty ship where like nothing was amiss, I would lose my mind. I think I'd be
take
terrified.
It's a free ship.
Well,
if it's still floating, it's still good, right? So
there are some laws around it, and that's also what we're going to touch on today.
There's laws around taking a free ship? An empty ship?
You say free ship like there aren't like maritime rules around. Like you can't
Look
just
at
like,
you.
Oh, it's an empty ship.
Rules. Okay, maritime rules.
Come on, man. Come on, get it together. Get your knowledge together.
Just before we get off.
Yes.
That's a funny
wow.
Rewind.
Why'd you say that? Why'd you got to do it like that?
Before we kick off, let's get a poll going. I know I'm that guy, and I want you to answer this question. I'll answer this question as I already did, I guess. Would you, if you saw a free ship floating in the ocean and you had the opportunity to commandeer an empty ship, no one's getting hurt, would you not take it?
Jeff, there's protocol. You can't just take a 100-foot ship from the ocean with like loads of cargo in it and just go, you know what, finders keepers.
I think you might be able to, depending on who you are. So
maybe if you're a pirate.
Sure. That's what I'm saying. Since we're on the seas, but
yes,
we'll leave that to another conversation. Let's jump in.
We're going to get into all this stuff. So let's just kind of start with the beginning here. So throughout maritime history, the oceans have whispered tales of ghost ships. So vessels found eerily adrift with no crew aboard. So this isn't the first time that this has happened, which I think every time I would probably be like so superstitious back in the day, finding a ship just empty. These spectral ships, from the legendary Flying Dutchman to the real-life enigma of the SS Benchermo, which roamed the Arctic waters for decades after its abandonment. They have long captured decades.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so they have long captured our imagination with their tales of the unexplained. Among these haunting narratives is one story that stands out for its enduring mystique and myriad of questions left in its wake, which is the story of the Mary Celeste. So I'm just going to take us to the very beginning of this because it's immediately interesting.
Take me back.
So when the Mary Celeste was built, it was not named the Mary Celeste. In fact, it had a different name initially. It was called the Amazon. But even then, from its birth, there was crazy things immediately happening. So one of the first things that I learned about this was its very first captain, right? It was supposed to be like a really routine a sail, I guess, for its maiden voyage. And the first captain, apparently right before he left on this trip, he was telling people like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, but nothing like a little seawater, to cure this, right?
Well, that's already a bad decision.
Mm-hmm.
Seawater's going to dry you out. It's going to make you vomit if you drink too much of it. I learned that from, where did I learn that from?
Wait, you didn't know
El Dorado
that you're not supposed to drink seawater?
I mean, I don't think living in Oklahoma through elementary school that they taught me off the bat, hey, you know what you don't do is drink seawater. Dude. I'm not saying I didn't know that. All I'm saying is it wasn't taught to me.
Dude, it literally will drive you crazy. Your body is not meant to intake.
Right. Too much salt.
You can't.
Too much salt.
But yeah, so this is again, we're talking about the 1800s. It launched in 1861. So in 1861, men being all tough that they were was like, this will pass. It's fine. Whatever. Yeah. I don't need a doctor. So it was like very light, but apparently as soon as the crew went aboard and they started sailing, he immediately took a turn for the worst. And that cold turned into bronchitis, which eventually he would die on that initial trip. So
bronchitis is no joke, man. Chest infections.
Not in 1800s, dude.
Need antibiotics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And so first off,
put some leeches
footing,
on that thing,
right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Like you already know, we're about to talk about some crazy ass story here about a missing ship. But the fact that like this isn't the only event in its history where weird things were happening. So that was just the first one. The first captain.
Viral infection happens on a ship.
Right. But that's nothing to do with the ship, right? I mean,
right. That's what I'm saying. I think it's topical.
Right. Just 1800s, you get sick, you're most likely going to die, right?
Yeah, that's just a general rule of thumb no matter what. No matter if it's 18.
You live to 30, 40 and you had a good life,
Right. Yeah.
But anyways, still a really interesting story, the fact that there are crazy instances like this. And so obviously kind of mysterious, but again, the ship continued on. They got a new captain. But that wouldn't be kind of the end of some of the crazy things that happened to this ship. So not only that, in between that first captain dying, they got a new one called Captain Parker, who sailed into the English Channel. And during this time, there was also another event. Very white, I'm sure.
I mean, Captain Parker.
Captain Parker.
Yeah.
And during that time, it literally, like, it was trying to go into the harbor, the English Channel, and when it did, it rammed directly into another boat, sinking it. So
bad captain. Captain Parker.
Yes, bad Captain Parker, or just bad luck, or the ship was cursed, Jeffrey, which is what we're going to start to get into.
Someone's sailing the ship is all I'm saying.
Right. So it collided with a fishing vessel, and basically just sunk the ship, which is, again, just kind of hinting at the eerie legacy.
The fishing vessel, not the Mary Celeste Amazon.
Exactly.
Yeah, gotcha.
Exactly. So after that, it went undergoing like extensive repairs, and the ship was eventually sold after it kind of got like a bad name and a bad rap. It was sold to kind of I was told maybe like not a shady character, but just a businessman.
Which would be a shady character, yeah.
Right. A businessman bought it with the idea of, first of all, repurposing it, so making it bigger. So they added on to it and almost doubled its size.
You can do that?
Yeah.
I don't know about ships, I guess.
Yeah. And so they ended up like repurposing it, adding weight, a whole bunch of stuff, making it a little bit bigger. Just for context, too, the Mary Celeste was 100 feet like long and 25 feet wide. So pretty sizable ship. But it's more like, like from the TV show that you're talking about, that has like a really big, like metal, like cargo ship
type. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that. It's more of like an actual, like when you think of an 1800s wooden ship, like a pirate ship, that's what we're talking about here.
Gotcha.
So still a big ship. But to kind of move on to the next part, right? That businessman.
This word came to me too late. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, go for it.
Frigate.
It's actually a brigate with a B.
Okay.
So you're close. You're close.
Okay.
I don't know the difference between the two.
Was
probably
hunting
sizes.
For it. So,
but yeah. So after all that happens, right? It has a bad rap. They're like, you know what? This needs good marketing. We just need to rename you, slap some paint on, and we'll put you back out there. And so that's basically what happened. They kind of repurposed it for different uses, and then they also renamed it the Mary Celeste officially.
They thought it was a sexy name. They thought it was going to lure in the right crowd.
Yeah,
Mary
like,
Celeste.
This is the name. This is going to be...
You took like an Amazon... The name, I assume they changed it from was Amazon, right?
Yes, it was called the Amazon.
Yeah, you take that name, you put a little cursive Mary Celeste on the side.
Right.
Maybe put a flying lady at the front.
How fancy, right?
Yeah.
And so possibly the bad luck that the ship was having wouldn't definitely not follow it after a name change, right?
I think it's really presumptuous that you're putting that on the ship and not the people running the ship. But that's, hey, your story.
To each their own, Jeff. To each their own. Or the ship is cursed.
Right.
So after the renaming, that happened in 1872.
Mm-hmm.
And she was transformed significantly in both size and structure, readying her for a fateful journey that would make her name synonymous with maritime mystery. With that change, though, they added a brand new captain. This captain was named Benjamin Spooner Briggs. What a name, first of all.
Nice.
And so Briggs was one of 5 sons in a seafaring family, so he came from a line of captains as well.
Nepotism. No, I'm joking.
And so, unlike his contemporaries, though, he received a really good education, which, coupled with his maritime lineage, really paved his way for a successful career in sailing from a young age. Briggs's seafaring career was distinguished by his expertise in navigation and ship management. Before taking command of the Mary Celeste, he had captained several voyages without incident, building a reputation for safety and efficiency. You see how I'm lulling you into a beautiful sense of security, that little blanket I just put you guys under.
Nice. I like feeling this way.
Right? So everything's good. We got a great captain. We got a renamed, painted up ship. We're ready for probably lead paint or worse, or maybe they didn't paint it at all. I'm
sure they didn't.
So with that, right?
A lot of lacquer.
Just a lot of lacquer on that thing.
What they used to use? Tar? To cover the...
Dude, you can't ask me that. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what they... I don't think it was tar. That might have been earlier than that.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
But watch me be wrong. You should look that up, actually, while we're talking about it, because I'm not 100% sure how you build a ship, Jeffrey. Okay. I'm not really sure about that. So that kind of sets the stage for this really famous voyage, which this voyage immediately happens on November 7th of 1872. The Mary Celeste would set sail from New York Harbor with a cargo of 1,701 barrels of industry alcohol. So I just want to clarify, this kind of alcohol was not drinkable. It was really used for other things. So just something to kind of note as we move forward and when we start talking a little bit about certain theories that people might have. So,
do you want me to enlighten you with the tar real quick?
Yes, please. Tell me how ships are made.
That was a 5-second research, but essentially I was right.
Oh, with tar.
But this is a good funny. I went to Quora.com, so let's see how reliable this is.
Okay.
But he said, someone should point out that the tar was Stockholm tar used on wooden frigates or brigates or wooden ships, not the black stuff we put on roads.
Right.
So the decks were not tarred. The joints between the planks were caulked with oakum and pitch.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So
naval vessels had their decks scrubbed daily, so there was little point in tarring them. Good to know.
That's really
good. So tar was just somewhere involved in the ship.
Right.
That's what you came here to this podcast to learn. And
that's right.
It.
That's it. Now we're done. Great podcast, Jeff. Let's wrap it up. No, I really do appreciate you enlightening me on that because I don't know how ships are made. So that makes sense though. Now that you say that out loud,
we'll take a class.
So with the crew, experienced and reliable, they embarked on what they believed would be a routine voyage. It was going to be about a month's journey. Now, I just want to take a second to talk about that because, as harrowing as it is to probably even sail today across the ocean, can you imagine being on a wooden boat for a month journey, without without an engine?
You're a cruise ship director on a very small boat, and you're just with the same people each time.
In the middle of the ocean, Jeff. We're talking,
that's rough.
It's a scary venture for anyone, and it always amazes me that this stuff worked out.
It's amazing that people really enjoyed it enough to live their lives and set up a career doing it. But I know there's people who love it. People love the ocean, people love sailing. So maybe to some that's not a big deal.
Right. I'm sure
I get
it was
the
a
itch
mix
to sail sometimes. I mean, in
really?
my blood says you need to sail.
Yeah.
And so I think about it sometimes. I do. I watch some YouTube videos and then I go, I don't know. Am I up to snuff? That's what I think about too.
Yeah.
Like, am I personally up to snuff? I think I could if I had to.
Right.
But would I want to is the question. These people, I don't know if they had those questions or those, do I want to? I think it was more, maybe it was a job,
Yeah.
And if you grew up around it, that's just your livelihood. So.
Right. And it sounds like the captain, at least, had obviously grew up in a family that did this. This was normal. This is just how sailing worked. It was super long travel, but I just have a very healthy fear of the sea and can't even imagine being at the will of the ocean with no sight of land around me. It just that thought alone terrifies me, and I hope I'm not alone. Yeah.
Question before we get into your nighttime terrors of the ocean.
Sure.
Do we know how the bathrooms worked on a brigate? Is there just a hole?
Dude, you have a bathroom. You have a 360 bathroom anywhere. Just lean on over, buddy, and you're good to go.
But do we know? I guess I'll Google that too, because
please do.
That feels like a question that should be answered on this podcast. But we'll continue with the story now. And
I'm just imagining there's just a little hole made where you just lift it up and it's just straight into the ocean.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
seems practical.
Well, you should definitely look that up. See, I'm learning so much about ships today. Not even just the Mary Celeste. So this is great. All right. So I won't deep dive back into my fear of the sea, but kind of jump right back into the story a little bit. So they obviously thought it was going to be a routine voyage. But as the Mary Celeste glided over the Atlantic, the seeds of a legend were sown, and the journey that would begin with normalcy was gradually veering towards an enigmatic path. Gosh, I can't speak today. Destined to puzzle and fascinate the world. So that is my setup. Are you ready for what's about to happen next?
I'm ready, and we'll also provide the answer to that question.
That's right.
How did people go to the bathroom on wooden ships?
Okay.
So the answer to that very important question was there was essentially a hole in one of the wooden planks at the front of the boat called the head, and
the poop deck.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, it was just right there.
There it is. Yep. The head was the name of the ship's toilet, which was located at the front or the bow of the ship near the base of the bowsprit. And the bowsprit was a long pole that extended from the ship's hull and supported the sails and rigging. The head was usually a wooden seat with a hole in it that hung over the water.
Wow.
There you go.
There you go. That's the most
sorry
efficient
if
option.
You've logged off of the podcast at that moment. I'm really sorry. We'll get back to the real part of this story.
We'll get back. But also, imagine being in a storm and sitting on that toilet.
There had to be people that couldn't hold it. So
I know. So true. Okay. Well, we can dive back into the story of the Mary Celeste next, but also really good fun fact. I'm glad we know this now. Learning all about ships today. So to kind of begin, in the autumn of 1872, the Mary Celeste set forth from New York, bound from Genoa. Captain Benjamin Briggs, an esteemed mariner, was at the helm. The brigantine was not only laden with substantial cargo of industrial alcohol, but also carried personal significance, as Briggs was accompanied by his wife, Sarah, and their young daughter, Sophia. So he had brought his family aboard, which is a whole nother can of worms.
Wow.
In your decision making. And also I learned that he also had a son, but the son stayed back for schooling, and so was one of the lucky ones coming out of this, as fate would be told. So this voyage represented more than just a routine trip. It was a journey interweaving the professional and personal lives of his captain and his family, blending the daily rigors of maritime life with the presence of loved ones. But Mary Celeste's voyage was immediately met with formidable challenges. Early in the journey, the ship encountered inclement weather conditions, testing the mettle of the crew and the resilience of the vessel itself. Despite these setbacks, the ship and its crew persevered. Captain Briggs, known for his thoroughness, documented the voyage in the ship's log. The last known entry was made at 5 a.m. on November 25th, indicating the ship's proximity to the Azores. So I don't know if you know where that's at in the Atlantic, but actually...
The Azores, yes.
Yes, exactly. So I thought that was a really cool point, too, because I know you've been close to the Azores,
I have.
if not landed there, on some trips that you might have taken. And they said that they were approximately around 6 nautical miles away from those islands. Those log entries, if they had been found, would have provided critical insights into the voyage's conditions and decision-making process during the perilous part of their journey. So he was really known for being super meticulous in this book. But as you'll know, a lot of things are going to be lost to time, which creates this mystery.
Time in the ocean.
That's right. So on December 5th of 1872, the British brig Del Grata, captained by David Morehouse, stumbled upon the Mary Celeste approximately 400 miles east of the Azores. Finding the ship adrift in choppy seas, Morehouse recognized the vessel and sent an onboarding party to investigate. But the scene they encountered was incredibly puzzling. The ship was first of all deserted, but in seaworthy condition, with more than 3 feet of water in the hold, an amount not alarming enough to cause panic. So there was water in it when they boarded, but no soul on board, which
Sounds
is already
like a
creepy.
rogue wave.
Well, I mean, we don't know. There's lots of theories here. So the ship's charts were also in disarray, and the crew's belongings remained. So all of the people's stuff was still there, which kind of indicates, right, that maybe people were in a hurry and didn't have time to grab their stuff.
For sure. In a hurry to leave the boat, I assume.
Yes, exactly. And also the lifeboat was missing.
Okay.
And the last little piece of information that's really interesting to note is one of the ship's 2 pumps was disassembled. So these pumps, when water would get into the ship, these pumps regularly pump that back out of the bottom of it. So it looked like one was in pieces and kind of strewn apart the bottom room there.
So maybe this seaworthy captain knew pumps were broken. They were in the middle of the ocean, that eventually this is going to sink. We need to leave now. They boarded the exit boat and left. But that doesn't make sense because you'd obviously have time
maybe
to get your stuff. Maybe they didn't have room. Maybe it wasn't time. Maybe it was room. If they're all crowded in on a lifeboat.
Yeah, there are some very popular theories that kind of interweave some of the thoughts that you just said.
Okay.
But there is like more details to this as well. So like the cargo of alcohol, right, was mostly intact.
Mm-hmm.
It also had like a substantial supply of food and water on board, enough for like 3 times the journey that they were making. So there was all the food there, everything necessary for this thing to be totally fine, but just still a complete ghost ship. No one was there. So it also says the ship's last log entry was dated for November 25th, 10 days prior to its discovery. So this happened very recently. This log is crucial in piecing together the ship's final days, but sadly did not provide the answers they'd hoped for, right? But we do know that Briggs was known for keeping a super detailed log. So there has to be a reason why those 10 days weren't there. And so that kind of begins that first initial mystery. This ship also, to kind of provide you some details on the De Grata ship, that was the one I was referencing where the Mary Celeste had left a week prior, or before it, and then it was going and it was expecting again to kind of meet up at the destination with it, and that's when it kind of ran across the Mary Celeste just floating out in the middle of the ocean.
Right.
So really weird, as well as there was personal connections where the captain, David Morehouse, knew Briggs as well personally. Yeah. So this was not just a like, oh, I stumbled across a ship. It was like, wait a minute, that's my friend's ship. No one's aboard. Right. So very, very eerie, very scary situation, I'm sure. And in the 1800s, as you can imagine, I'd be super superstitious. If I was a sailor on the other boat finding this, I'd immediately think something like really crazy and wacky had happened, which I'm sure that spread around the crew like wildfire.
Yeah.
So there were some other like little sections that I wanted to make sure to note, because to me, the most interesting part about this is really kind of piecing together the puzzle. So I wanted to make sure to provide as much detail on what they exactly saw when they stepped aboard that ship. And so one of those things, though, was obviously the lifeboat being missing, which was the most significant indication of a urgent evacuation. This detail alone suggested a scenario where the crew had to leave the ship in haste. Further emphasizing the suddenness of their departure, personal items of the crew, like their oilskin boots and pipes, were left totally behind. This indicated that the crew had likely left in a hurry without taking time to gather their belongings. Moreover, the absence of the essential navigational instruments, too, that were missing, like the ship's chronometer and sextant, was particularly puzzling. So all the things used to navigate the ship was also missing. So most likely took that with them. These items are crucial for navigating the sea, and their absence could imply that the crew took those with them, possibly foreseeing a need to navigate using the lifeboat. So again, the pieces are starting to kind of come together on what possibly might have happened to this as well.
Except for the reason to jump.
Right.
For the reason to leave. Like, sure, if there's signs that they did leave and it makes sense that the lifeboat's gone, that some of them took the lifeboat. But why they felt the need to leave when it seems like it's a working boat with food, water, and everything you need. And in sailing condition, outside of a pump being broken, is the only system that seems down.
In this ship, too, though, they had found that water had gotten into the ship. There was about 3 feet of water in the bottom of the ship, but that was not enough to like obviously sink it or make it unseaworthy in any case. And so that's even more puzzling. So that's kind of the next part here too, is really just talking about that it was largely in seaworthy state, although there were signs of disorder. Specifically, the fore hatch and the lazarette hatch were completely open, and there was a notable amount of water between the decks. However, this water accumulation was not at a level that would threaten the ship's ability to stay afloat, therefore leading kind of to becoming very, very mysterious. In the ship's galley, there was also clear indications of recent activity, but everything appeared to be in disarray. The stove had been dislodged from its position, and cooking utensils were scattered about. These observations suggested that there might have been a sudden disturbance on board, or that the crew had left in a hurry, perhaps interrupting their daily activities. So even more kind of mystery of like what caused them to abandon ship, right? Obviously the lifeboat's gone. So it would suggest to me that they decided to take their chances on a small little dinghy boat. Wow.
Right.
The other kind of part of this mystery as well is kind of talking about the cargo, right? So before we kind of mentioned, in the cargo hold of the Mary Celeste was a substantial quantity of industrial alcohol, exactly 1,701 barrels. The fact that the majority of these barrels were still intact diminished the likelihood of piracy or theft being a reason behind the crew's disappearance. Interestingly, though, 9 of these barrels were empty. However, this was attributed to a leakage rather than any foul play. Those empty barrels were made of red oak, a material known to be more porous compared to white oak for use for other barrels. This difference in material is likely the cause, what caused the alcohol in those barrels to leak out, ruling out the possibility that these barrels of being tampered with maliciously. So again, the next kind of option that you might go to is, hey, they got ran across by pirates and they decided to take their chances again on the lifeboat, but none of the cargo was missing. So another kind of piece of that puzzle that's still unsolved. Also, there was no evidence of violence on board, which was something I wanted to know as well. Was there a sign of a scuffle? Was there a sign of any sort of fight going on? Obviously, things were in disarray, but was there anything else? And so, contrary to some sensationalized accounts, there was no evidence of violence or bloodshed found on board. A sword discovered in the captain's cabin showed signs of rust, but no blood. Initially, when we kind of moved to the next part, that was a part of their investigation to like what the heck happened. Was they found this sword and it had a little red on it, and they assumed maybe, oh, wait a second, was there a fight, with it? But they found out it was just rust. So that kind of dispels the myths of mutiny and violent conflict. So this detail, alongside the absence of any struggling, only deepened the enigma of the crew's disappearance. So do you have any theories so far?
I do, but it might be too logical.
Well, maybe it is logical. Like maybe that's just, where people aren't looking first.
So let's imagine your pump's broken.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't get the water out. They have no way to fix it. They're in the middle of the ocean.
Yes.
Okay. You're with your family, your loved ones, your wife and your kid. Maybe not as seaworthy as you, a little bit more weary than you. You suddenly impact a storm. Okay. A rather violent storm. You get hit with a rogue wave that sends a bunch of water on board. You as the captain think, wait, this might be it. I need to get my family into the lifeboat because we're probably going to sink. They get in the lifeboat, take the essentials, leave immediately, take all the crew, leave their stuff because you can't fit everything on board. Okay?
Yeah.
You get in this little lifeboat. You end up dying in this storm, thinking that your big ship was going to sink, but ends up you just capsizing your little ship instead.
Wow,
the big
that's
ship
really
lives.
thorough.
The big ship lives to see another day, battered with water inside of it from the storm. No pump, no crew, no lifeboat, everything else intact.
That's
Boom,
a
bang,
really good
Bob's
theory.
your uncle.
That's a really good theory. And there's a lot of stuff, too, that we're going to get into right after this ad break, really talking about, first of all, what the heck happens? Like we joked about at the very beginning. Like, what do you do when you have a free ship in front of you, right? There's obviously laws and also kind of some moral contradictions that happened immediately after from the captain. Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got the platform that allows you to make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and even earn money. All in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters allows you to record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. And then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else that podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. And with Spotify Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since I discovered Spotify for Podcasters, I feel like having options like video podcasts and question and answer polls has allowed me to be creative on a whole nother level. I highly recommend that you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right. Thank you for listening to that ad. You guys listening to that really does support the podcast, so we truly appreciate it. Jeffrey, are you ready to kind of hop back into what the heck happens now, right? We found this ghost ship. What do we do with it?
I'm ready to jump back in right after I mention.
Yeah.
Please give us a like and rating and review on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you guys listen to this podcast. We're posting more on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. Check us out, Casual X History, and our website, casualxhistory.com. Some cool merch from Jacob, the designer over there. And yeah, I'm ready to jump in after that. I just had to put that in.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yes, a review would make our day. So, but jumping back into this story, when Captain Morehouse from the De Grata discovered the Mary Celeste adrift, he was kind of confronted with a difficult choice. Maritime law allowed salvage claims on abandoned vessels, but the bizarre circumstances of the Mary Celeste, including its missing crew, could have stirred superstitions or concerns. Despite potential hesitations, Morehouse, driven by a sense of duty and the lure of a salvage reward, resolved to tow the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar. This decision, while legally sound, plunged Morehouse and his crew into the depths of a maritime enigma. And so when they arrived to Gibraltar, it marked the beginning of an intensive investigation, right? We're not the only people that immediately thought, what the heck happened here? You just brought back a whole ship with all of its cargo, everything, right? It immediately is suspicious of possible foul play. You don't know if they really like the story that they're going to tell you is completely true. Yeah. All that stuff happened. And so, the crew of the Del Grata was just hoping for compensation for the salvage efforts. But they found themselves entangled in a complex legal process. The inquiry was led by Attorney General Frederick Solly Flood, a figure known for his thoroughness and propensity for pursuing elaborate theories. So this man, just during my research, I heard some really funny descriptions of this guy, but this dude was kind of an asshole. He, once he made up his mind on something, that's how it happened. He wanted to pin it that way. That's the kind of judge this person was. And so really didn't give, the best chances for getting the most, salvage reward or this kind of going away quickly for that crew.
Yeah.
So Flood explored various scenarios, including mutiny, piracy, and even insurance fraud. The exhaustive probe delved into every aspect of this case, from the ship's physical condition to the backgrounds of its original crew. However, it ultimately failed to uncover any concrete evidence of foul play. The lingering mystery surrounding the Mary Celeste led to a significant reduced salvage reward. So the judge really thought that something had gone astray, like either they were lying about where they found the ship, whether they were kind of in on it together and he got rid of his friend for the reward. Right. This guy was very, very suspicious, but he couldn't find any evidence to the contrary. But in doing so, and because he had that belief, he gave them what was like pennies on the dollar for salvage reward. Like basically half of what they were expecting is what they got for the ship being towed back.
Right.
Just because they couldn't confirm that something crazy didn't happen and they weren't rewarding the bad guys in this situation.
I think that's a fair move.
Right. And so that's kind of how that ended up happening. In the wake of these hearings, numerous theories emerged to explain the crew's disappearance. One theory suggests an explosion caused by alcohol fumes from the cargo, despite the lack of evidence of such event. Others speculated about attacks from pirates or even sea creatures. So that was also a weird speculation. Some people believe that some sea animal came up, killed all the crew, and left the ship behind.
Yeah,
which is obviously
sounds reasonable. Giant squid,
right? You never know. The ocean's scary, man. Nature, you scary. And so also people thought supernatural occurrences could have happened. However, the more scientifically grounded these theories, theories. Yeah, right. Not all the crazy stuff. Considered like a couple options, right? A faulty chronometer, so like maybe they got lost. Rough seas, a clogged onboard pump leading to Briggs to mistakenly believe that his ship was sinking is kind of the obvious ones. Yet none of these theories could fully explain why an experienced captain like Briggs would just abandon a sound ship in such a hurry.
An experienced captain with his family on board.
Right.
Is a different captain than without his wife and kids on board. That's all I'm saying.
And so I personally, if you're going to ask my opinion on what I believe.
I'll ask your opinion. What's your opinion?
I personally believe that you're in the right boat. And I think there's a lot of people that like believe
lifeboat.
the most like I say boring option, but like the most logical option in my head, which is we know they hit rough seas because the other ship, the Del Grata, came through when the same storms were happening. So they definitely hit storms that was really, really rough for the ship. I really do think that him having his family on board did cause that panic. And so what I learned was too that before this voyage, they like the Mary Celeste had transported coal, which I guess when you're transporting coal can be really, really messy. Like it's hard to get out of the ship itself.
Yeah.
Therefore, those little particles can get caught in the pump. And so most likely what happened was they got out at sea. They didn't clean it very well, that pump, and didn't realize it till they got out too late. The ship started taking on a little bit of water. In a panic state, Briggs thought, I have my entire family pretty much on board. We are 5 miles, right, from the Azore Islands. We can make it in our little boat.
Right.
And probably hopped on that boat in a hurry, took his own stuff, and went there. And so that's the most popular theory.
I think I was on it, man. I should be a crime scene investigator.
You should. You were nailed it. The Rogue Wave one, like we'll never know.
Well, the Rogue Wave seems to be a popular thing to explain a lot of,
Right.
mysterious boats sinking. And it, maybe the Rogue Wave is just a cop out, but you get a big storm surge and something hits your boat out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Ocean's scary. I wouldn't put it past myself freaking out in that moment.
No,
but
you have your wife and kids on board.
I just don't understand is why not ride it out to sea? That's a funny pun. Ride it out to sea a little bit longer, right? Because if your boat's not actively sinking, you're about to jump in a dinghy with people on a smaller boat in the same storm. It just seems like a bad decision. But again, maybe it was the only decision they thought they had. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's sound that maybe in that moment, that clouded his judgment. Having his family there kind of puts you in a weird situation where normally if it's just you, you're like, all right, we can get through this. We're going to tough it out. But like I have my wife and 2 young kids on board. Maybe that influenced his decision a little bit more and ended up obviously leading to a worse result, but he didn't know that.
So what did we learn from this podcast? Let's review.
Sure.
Don't bring your family.
Don't go out in the ocean, like at all.
On a wooden brigate with your wife and kids during the middle of a storm. Because you will freak out. You will take the dinghy and think irrationally. We're basically saying don't have kids? Is that what we're trying to say?
No, we're not. We're not saying that.
Rough thing to say out here.
No. Also, you don't want to go onto the poop deck in the middle of a storm. That sounds like the word.
You just wanted to say that word. You had no other reason to say that.
What are you talking about?
To bring it up.
What are you talking about, Jeffrey? I don't know what you mean. No, I'm genuinely like I can't get it out of my head now that you said that of just a man sitting on the front of a boat, like the craziest storm going on, wind, like rain beating down on him, pantsless. I can't get that out of my head. It's so funny.
It's gonna stick with you, and all of our listeners.
Yeah, sometimes you learn things, and you just you can't unlearn them. You can't just force it out.
We're here to make you learn things you want to unlearn. That's a good promo for this podcast.
Sometimes you learn things that you want to learn, and sometimes you learn stuff that you didn't know you needed. So that's kind of where you're at. Fun little.
So what's the end of this? So they end up getting pennies on the dollar for the supplies and the ship. The judge is a hard ass, doesn't believe them. I mean, fair enough.
Right.
This becomes a mystery. Lots of speculation. Main science speculation / theory is the one we just discussed, which I tend to agree with. Although I like the ocean monster theory. That's my second top. But where do we go from here? What happens?
Yeah. So what ends up actually happening to the ship is it kind of continues on after this, which sounds crazy because such mystery surround it.
That bad boy's lived through a lot. I'd kind of trust that ship more than I would think it was haunted or cursed. I'd think, dang, this thing lasted. It ran over a ship, got rebuilt, lasted through some weird mystery and storm, took on water, didn't sink.
So afterwards,
good things for a boat.
Again, someone took it over. Took over the ship, obviously with like the worst name possible, it ended up just trying to like sail really normal, boring routes from then on with the ship because of the name. They didn't rename it, but it was known because of the mystery, and so it still continued to sail for like 10 plus years. But that didn't stop it. In fact, I think how it actually like the ship went like stopped sailing and doing any sort of routes in general happened when a group of businessmen who owned it eventually. The ship at that point, like when it's about to be decommissioned, was about 20 years old. For a wooden ship is very, very old. Yeah. It's a long lifetime. And funny enough, the people that owned it took out an insurance policy and then proceeded to load up cargo worth $1 million in their money on it. And when they were going into a port, there's like a well-known like little shelf area and where they were landing. He ended up on purpose crashing the boat into it to officially sink it so they could collect the insurance money.
Now that's the true story. Here's the one thing that I never understand about this. That's in the 1860s, 70s, however long we're at, what point in time we're at now. They trust the insurance companies,
dude,
to load up actual physical cargo, and like they trust that they're going to get paid by insurance. That's bold. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, insurance, so they took out basically insurance fraud. But what happened was like
that is insurance fraud.
And so
for those listening, don't do this.
He purposely crashed it where it was unsaleable from that point. Like they had to completely decommission it. Right. But it did not end happily for those people.
Go.
They got caught doing so, and they almost got caught with a charge that was like close to like back in the day. It could have like led to like death as the it was almost like a mutiny kind of charge for them.
Sounds like an adequate charge. I mean, but who cares about a wooden boat, getting sunk? But the insurance policy, the insurance companies, I knew they weren't going to pay out. They weren't going to take that.
Dude, they knew.
They always find a way.
They knew he did not do a good job of hiding how blatantly he tried to crash that ship.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty blatant attempt.
And so, obviously, like, the entire history of this ship was not without like weird occurrences, stuff like that, crazy stories behind it. So that just kind of added to the legacy. The fact that like something weird like that can happen in the 1800s, like the fact that they didn't just decommission it for superstition right off the bat, and they were like, well, it's a ship.
It sails.
Like someone will buy it and someone will try to use it. And so that's what ended up happening officially, and kind of like marked the end of the Celeste. So
wow. I like that. I like that story. I like that ending. I mean, I think we learned something today. We learned where any sea time man or woman or child went to the bathroom. We learned that it's with a tar, but not the black tar, that are in the joints. And we learned that insurance fraud still doesn't work.
Yeah.
Even from the beginning of insurance.
I think there are a lot of life lessons we've learned today.
Yeah.
And stuff that you're going to be able to pull out at parties for years to come. So I think this was a worthwhile listen. So thank you guys if you made it to the end of this show. I appreciate it. But we all know that it's not the end because we have our Leo show coming up. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready to go.
Let's do it.
Welcome back, brave time travelers, to Time Traveler Trivia. I'm Leo, your ethereal guide. Are you ready for a challenge that transcends the ages? Here's how our game works. In each round, I will regale you with 3 tales from the vast corridors of time. These tales will be strange, bewildering, and sometimes downright wacky. But here's the twist. Only one of these stories is a true piece of historical lore, while the others are clever fabrications from my ghostly imagination. Your task, to use your knowledge, intuition, and perhaps a bit of luck to discern the real historical event from the phantasmal fiction.
Phantasmal fiction. We are back, and I am ready to win.
Okay.
Haven't won in a few weeks.
I know. It's been a while. I've been on a winning streak. Let's see if you can kind of break it here. You ready for round 1?
I'm ready.
Let's go.
Round 1. Professional royal bed warmer. In medieval Europe, did some servants have the job of sleeping in the monarch's bed before they retired for the night to ensure the bed was warm and cozy? Candle clock keeper. Was there an occupation in ancient Egypt where individuals were tasked with monitoring the burning of candles that were used as timekeeping devices? Fairy tale cartographer. In 16th century Germany, did mapmakers specialize in creating detailed maps of locations from popular fairy tales and folklore for the entertainment of the nobility?
Huh.
All these sound so true. I could literally say any one of these and feel super confident.
What's your gut? Immediately off the bat, what's your gut out of the three? What do you lean towards? Not what your answer is, what do you lean towards?
I lean towards professional bed warmer.
Okay, I lean towards number 2.
Oh, okay.
Timekeeping with candle watching.
I say we stick.
You just want to go for it?
I mean, do you feel confident in your answer? Is the real question.
I mean, that's what I'm leaning towards off the bat. So let's just go with it. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, so let's reveal the first answer here, and the answer is professional royal bed warmer. So true in medieval Europe, there was indeed a real job. Servants known as royal bed warmers would sleep in the beds of nobility before they retired for the night to ensure that the beds were warm and free from dampness or vermin.
Not a bad job.
Not a bad job at all. First of all, you get to lay in king's beds. Like,
Sleep
how nice.
on the job. Not bad.
Exactly. I think why can't that be a job today? Why can't we do that now?
You probably can, but you won't be paid nearly as much.
Probably. So. Yeah. Just think of like warming a celebrity's bed just beforehand. They probably got a really expensive bed. It'll be nice.
Actually, would you want someone else's body in your bed?
Personally, I would not. That doesn't sound nice to me. But if someone came to you right now, Jeffrey, with a job, would you like to be a professional bed warmer? What would you say?
Yeah, if you want to give me the salary or put me on payroll, I'm down. Give me a free meal or two.
Real quick before we move on, I kind of want to put you on the spot. What would be your price? Like your lowest price that you would do this? I mean, that's it.
I mean,
feed me. I'm good.
I mean, it depends. Let's break this down very quickly.
Okay.
How many times a week?
Every day. Every day. Yep.
How long? Every day.
I mean, for the bed to get warm, maybe like an hour to 2 hours.
Oh, okay. What's? Give me.
What's the lowest?
$100 for the day.
$100 a day.
Yeah,
you would do that.
2 hours my time. Gas money, $30. Get there and back.
In this economy, that sounds good to me, dude.
I'm laying in bed. I'll take a nap for 2 hours every day, and then I have a scheduled nap time. I'll be great.
Dude, think of all the events you could get out of by just saying I gotta go to work, and it's just literally you have a scheduled nap every day.
You just watch a couple of TV shows.
Yeah, but you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't travel, so there would be.
But you just lay in bed, you watch some TV, and you're done.
Yeah, that's true. I would take it. All right, Jeffrey, round 2.
Round 2, the bird poop facial. In 18th century Japan, did a beauty treatment become popular among the elite, which involved applying nightingale droppings to the face to maintain a youthful complexion? The beehive boot. In 1960s, America, alongside the beehive hairdo, did the beehive boot become a brief fashion craze, featuring tall, hive-shaped boots that matched one's hairstyle? The waterfall skirt. In Renaissance Italy, was the waterfall skirt a trend among women, where the back of the skirt was designed to flow and trail behind like a gentle waterfall?
Such elegance.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I don't know.
You don't? I feel like I immediately want to lean towards the waterfall skirt because it seems the most obvious fashion choice.
I mean, yeah, it does. And you said fashion really funny.
Fashion
like you had
choice.
A northern accent. I will counter you.
Okay.
And I will say bird droppings on the face.
Dude.
Some people are weird, man.
I hope you're right.
But here's the thing. Bat poop used to be in makeup.
Is there still not? Is that crazy?
Is it still? I don't know. But I just know it used to, or at least when I got told when I was 12 inside of a cave tour where they mentioned, hey, you know those bats and you see all that poop? That's
girls
what
put that on their face.
So I think bird poop, not that far off. Same family, same realm.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most entertaining answer to me on this board, which makes me want to go for it just out of that. But the safe answer to me is the waterfall skirt, just because I think that is like beehive boots. What the heck? Like maybe that could be possible, but I feel like just a skirt, like it feels like a really safe answer, but maybe that's why it's wrong.
Okay, so you're going C, I'm going A.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, let's reveal the answer next. Bird poop facial.
Let's go.
In Japan, the use of nightingale droppings as a facial treatment dates back to the 18th century. Oh my gosh, no, I can't say this. It was known in that language because I would butcher it. And it kind of sounds like Engusu no fun. It was used by geishas and actors to whiten and condition their skin. Wow. So you were totally right. See, that's the most entertaining answer. I should have went with it.
Something about the bird family.
Yeah.
And their poop. That really does it for people.
Apparently, people's poops. Dude,
we've spoken too much on this subject in this podcast.
We have.
So maybe let's jump to the next one before we get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, round 3 for all the marbles, bud.
Round 3. Cleopatra's perfume. Was a bottle of Cleopatra's famed perfume discovered in an ancient Egyptian temple, still fragrant after thousands of years. The Amber Room. After being lost during World War II, was the legendary Amber Room, a priceless piece of art made of amber and gold, rediscovered hidden in a mine in Germany. King Richard III's remains. Were the lost remains of King Richard III of England found beneath a car park in Leicester in the 21st century?
Jeffrey, I think I know the answer.
Yeah, we have an answer to this. I think I don't, because we talked about it on the podcast.
No, this is you're thinking of the wrong one.
Oh, I am. I know what we're talking. So my gut said the Amber Room, but I know we've talked about the Amber Room being a mystery still. That said, it was discovered. Right?
See,
we're not tag teaming this. You don't want to tag team because you think you're
this is for the win. Right. We can't.
Okay. So I have
all these could actually be very plausible after reading them.
The Amber Room I know is a real thing, but I thought it was lost and never found again. So that's where I've left it. If they're saying it was rediscovered, that's where I have an issue with that sentence or that question. So maybe Leo's trying to throw a curveball. But the other two, the first one, why am I talking this out loud? I don't want to give you any ideas. You give me your information.
All right. You want me to just give you my answer straight up?
Yeah, just go for it.
Okay. I believe I know this one, and I believe it's 3. That King Richard, I remember vividly reading this story.
Okay. So you know the answer. So I should just follow you and we should end on a tie.
It's possible that some of the details, like it says a park in Leicester, I think is how you say it. Leicester? I don't know. Leicester? I don't know. You do that? Listen, I'm trying to be more authentic to it. I don't know.
Just say it how it reads. Leicester.
Yeah.
Like Leicester.
So it's very possible that the location is wrong and that's where it's tripping me up. And that's where Leo's trying to get me. But I am 95% sure that King Richard III's remains were found in a parking lot somewhere. I had read that article.
Gosh, I could just play the game and go with you to tie it. But where would the fun be? And for the listening audience,
there wouldn't be. You should pick the wrong answer.
Here's the thing. I'm going to go out on a limb.
Okay.
Cleopatra's fragrance was that's so ridiculous for me to say. Now I'm going to go for the Amber Room. We'll see. Maybe there's a discovery that happened that I don't know about. Because in my brain, when we talked about this, it was never discovered. But we have discussed the Amber Room.
Yes,
so
we have.
I know it's a real thing. That leads me to believe there's a hint of truth. Maybe it's that. But I'm betting you're right. But let's do it for the suspense.
Okay. All right. So the final answer for all the marbles, Jeff. King Richard III remains. In 2012, the remains of King Richard III were indeed discovered beneath a car park. This discovery solved a long-standing mystery of the final resting place of the controversial king. Yeah, apparently he was not a great guy.
Crazy. I mean, he ended up under a car park. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow. Good for you. 3 weeks in a row.
The streak continues. After the first few games, I was horrible. So this is just making up for that. It's going to even itself out. I know it. It's eventually back your way.
I'm sure I'll take a win here or there, but congrats,
Thank you.
It's not every day that you win 3 in a row.
Thank you so much.
It'll be the only 3 in a row, but we'll see how we go.
We'll see.
Thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Casual History. It's been casual. Thanks for listening. We love you guys. We're posting more on all of our sites, Casual History, social media.com, the works.